Authentic, energetic, reflective, and open. These words represent the backronym for the title of Microsoft's mid-2000s design language known as Windows Aero, a visual style fully introduced with the Windows Vista operating system, but beginning its development with Windows XP, featuring a prominent focus on reflective surfaces, glass, and translucency. This design philosophy would eventually branch out into its more all-encompassing, better-known title of Frutiger Aero, where it would come to be associated with the constant implementation of skeuomorph, recreating pre-existing objects with features that in this new context are functionally pointless, but lend to a sense of familiarity to help new users better understand their function. For example, an electric light utilizing fake candle flames.
Frutiger Aero quickly became extremely popular in the 2000s. Following on from the Y2K aesthetic, it seemed like every tech company under the sun was using it to make their devices and their software look futuristic, and it has a real charm to it. Eventually, everything would go on to be replaced with the bland, boring minimalism that we all loathe today, and as a result of that, Frutiger Aero has seen a resurgence in the form of nostalgic yearning. Like all good things in the world of media, FA has been mined away at for nostalgia points for a good few years now. People harkening back to the days of Windows XP and 7, the age of the early internet where it felt like you could do anything, and before it felt like everything was owned by like 2 companies. And out of this yearning for the past, I've discovered what has quickly become my favorite way for people to express this nostalgia: through horror. The thing about this era of computers and the internet is that for all the good memories and love people have for it, parallel to that is an underlying sense of dread. With a much freer internet and with everyone's knowledge of it being far, far less than what it would go on to be, that led to a lot of misfortune. Viruses, troll sites, unmitigated violence and self-expression. There's a reason that there's dozens upon dozens of videos and posts from this era that the mere mention of are enough to instill a fight or flight response. And one of the greatest ways this mixed bag of horror and fond memories has been explored by creators is through digital horror. I've talked about this stuff before, and while there may only be one good series for every 50,000 garbage piles, the good ones are really something. They're able to explore some of the most horrifying and depressing themes through a veneer of childhood familiarity, able to resemble the websites and software of your younger years just enough to truly give you a sense of unease when it all inevitably goes wrong. Series like Lacey's Games, Milton Math's Games, Gaming Gamer Games, Ches Kids are among my favorite independent web series, and they all left me hungry for more. So I spent a long-ass time mindlessly scrolling through forums and subreddits trying to find any other series that could scratch the digital horror itch in my brain. I saw a lot of slop, a lot of failed potential, and right as I was certain I would never find anything decent in the trash can that we call the online horror community, I found it. I found GEB. GEB Operating System is an online horror web series that started in February 2024 and has seemingly flown under the radar for a lot of people. Its creator is pretty mysterious. Other than a Reddit account, I was unable to find any social media presence for them, and even that is solely dedicated to GEB. It has 6 entries as of the time I'm writing this, and it's littered with puzzles and secrets and manages to nail making you feel like you're going insane upon a blind viewing. But you know what, I'm going to stop rambling and actually get to the videos. The first video for the series opens on a PC running GEBOS coming online. Whoever is using the PC logs in and immediately hops on a website reminiscent of an old school forum to ask a question. Weird dreams. I already know this will be branded as stupid, but I really need to talk to someone about this. It's been a while since my parents and I all have the same dream. It's not even something that strange, it's usually just a series of places that I don't think I've ever seen. The thing that creeps me out the most is that my parents did. It's like, I don't know, their memories? If anyone knows how this is called in a scientific, biological way, please tell me. Thanks. The English for this is a little bit broken. I'm unsure if that's intentional or not, seeing as this kind of becomes a reappearing issue as the series progresses, but the basic gist is our user is having collective dreams with their parents of certain locations the parents have seen, but our user never has, assuming these may be memories from the parents that the user is witnessing. After that, we get a message from the goat of all messengers from someone called Lulu, who reveals our user is called Nora. Lulu and Nora chat back and forth for a bit until Lulu sends over a link for the two of them to play a game called Splash Paint. The goal is to draw whatever pops up on screen. The first challenge is a pet, for which Nora draws a golden retriever and Lulu draws several black cats, one of which I like so much that I kept doodling it while taking notes for the script. Next up, the pair is asked to draw a relaxing place, and for this one, Lulu draws a beach and Nora draws what looks like a field. During this, the screen flickers for a moment to the same field Nora is seemingly doodling.
Is this a relaxing place for you?
It doesn't take long for the game to freak out, duplicating and mirroring itself over and over until the computer just can't geb hard enough to compete and breaks down. Upon starting back up, Nora finds that Lulu didn't wait up and has gone on to do something else. With nobody left to chat to, Nora checks up on the question she posted earlier, with responses that are not the most helpful. She closes the page to find a folder which wasn't on the desktop before this. Upon opening it, there's only one file. Making the most intelligent decision humanly possible, Nora immediately opens the file without any hesitation and we're shown this. An audio visualizer, some kind of containment space, what appears to be a bathroom, a CAT scan of someone's brain, something so distorted that I can't make out what it is, maybe a person, a diagram of Earth's layers rapidly cycling in and out, a page of cryptic, unintelligible numbers, a clip of Hayao Miyazaki, co-founder of Studio Ghibli, during a recording of him being shown an AI presentation and calling in insult to life itself, 3 censored men along with what looks like a crime scene, a diagram of something written in Italian, what could be a picture of a garden or somewhere outdoors, someone's kitchen with a boiling kettle, I think, and that's the end of the first video. Before we get into this and fall further and further down the rabbit hole of dogs, gebs, and brains, if this has intrigued you, I implore you to go check out the series before I spoil the rest of it and try to piece the puzzle together. My experience with the series has been so good because I didn't know what was coming next, and you can only experience it that way once, so if you have the time, please just go check out the original series itself. I'll have it linked in the description. Come back and watch me have a breakdown trying to figure it out. Okay, so what we just saw isn't just creepy nonsense for the sake of it. It will tie into other things. Some of them resolved, some of them not as of yet, but to get to what the hell it means, we'll have to look at the other episodes first. Think of it like the 4th episode of Mr. Robot. A lot of the pieces of the puzzle were just shoved right in our face, we just need the hindsight to put them together. The second episode starts with Nora seemingly practicing the homework her and Lulu discussed earlier, meaning this video takes place not too far from the one before it. After this, Nora receives a message from Lulu asking about the folder. She reveals that it's not even there anymore and that, to her, the video was just a black screen. So either what this video contained is being repressed, or we were able to see something Nora couldn't. Lulu decides to link Nora to a website she's made. Opening it reveals a giant site with walls of text about labyrinths, different kinds of them, and a lovely little David Bowie to watch over you while you read. It's a lot. It covers paradoxes and gets really fucking deep. I won't read it all to you as that'd just waste time, but it will become relevant again. After being asked what she thinks, Nora says she'll read it better later. They chat for a bit longer and eventually go their separate ways. Nora then decides to open what looks like a web portal to a bunch of different games and activities, landing on an application called 2D Universe. This in turn installs a game called City Folks 2D. Nora creates her character and we're thrown into the game. We see the player character, who I'll just call Nora, on a train journey to a place called Alba Nova. We then see a house and a tree. The house is selected and upon clicking it, the game transitions to a full-blown RPG Maker-esque style with fully 3D rendered areas and characters. The house has 4 rooms and a staircase. 3 of the rooms contain a distorted, off-putting character who Nora must interact with, the first one being Eva.
Haven't you ever wished you had somebody else to play around with? You might like it. Then you get used to it. Yeah, well, in a few months we're all gonna get used to somebody new.
Nora moves on to the next character, a man wrapped in bandages.
The noise will come soon. There's only one floor left. Who do you think is to blame? Please don't hit me.
This phrase is repeated in the video's description. Nora interacts with the TV and sees a compilation of clips from a stage play featuring a person in bandages being beaten and a man exclaiming something whilst wearing a French flag. I tried very hard to find what this play is and where it came from, but I wasn't able to track it down. If you know what this is from the few seconds of screen time, good for you, you're a big fucking nerd. Finally, Nora makes her way over to the kitchen where she talks to Paul.
How's it going with your sleep apnea? You managed to escape, didn't you? I told you the world was dangerous. It's unfair, isn't it?
Nora goes to what looks like a dining room. Nora then interacts with the window, showing us a view outside. It's dark, it's snowing, and there's footsteps leading into the darkness.
There are steps outside. I should go and check.
Also, side note, I only just noticed while writing this part that during this segment, a low opacity PNG of a creepy girl just appears on the side of the screen, stares at you for a bit, and then just leaves. Nora heads out the way she came in and selects the tree to explore the outside. What we see then is a broken, dilapidated shack and some text.
What is one last thought as you pull the trigger? There goes my head. Please, Jesus, watch over me.
And then a body, soaked in blood within the woods. Nora attempts to return to the house, but is unable to, the area looking as if it's unready for her return. We're told we should wait, and eventually the house returns to its original look. Nora heads inside to find the place empty. Everyone is gone. Interacting with the TV again gives us another clip show of the stage play, and in turn more footage of the bandaged person being beaten. Nora then interacts with the bookshelf in the dining area.
There's a book called The Strange Situation.
So this is potentially in reference to an experiment known as The Strange Situation, conceived by psychologist Mary Ainsworth in the 1970s, its purpose being to observe attachment in small children. The experiment involves a mother and child entering a room, a stranger is introduced, and they break apart the group and reunite it in different stages throughout. Also, side note, the website I initially got this info from has the most horrifying diagram depicting the experiment that I have ever seen, and also features a YouTube video with a fully AI-generated woman explaining the stages of the experiment. So, fuck Simply Psychology for that one. All my homies hate Simply Psychology. Instead, check out Attachment, Exploration, and Separation, illustrated by the behavior of 1-year-olds in a strange situation, to read it directly from the horse's mouth. After this, the player character blinks out of existence, reappearing into a black void. We hear 2 doors open, the game shuts itself off, and Nora is thanked for playing. This ends video 2. So, just a rundown of what we have so far. Nora is seemingly a young girl with a friend known as Lulu. Nora uses a self-proclaimed old PC she can't afford to replace, running a bizarre operating system that shows her things she has no memory of. Nora is experiencing what could be memories from other people through her dreams, and she's playing a game on her PC that is odd and strangely personal, containing an extremely dark turn near the end of it. You just go to video 3. Video 3 begins with City Folks 2D back up and running. It displays thresholded footage of someone walking up some stairs. I call it threshold because it's very reminiscent of the old Slender series Tribe 12, and that's how that effect was achieved. I hope the similarities end there for all of our sake. And after reaching the top, we come across some sort of family gathering. We have Martha, Honey, George, Nick, and that one.
Darling, you're finally home. We were just talking about you. Your father was boring the guests as usual.
Please, honey, don't encourage them.
Of course. Let's all start saying hello to our daughter then.
Our son.
Daughter?
He is a beautiful boy.
This is getting pathetic. You two are crazy, inviting strangers to your stupid little game.
Don't call them crazy in front of their son.
Daughter.
Honey, stop it. We are leaving now.
Hello, son.
Stop it!
Hello, son. Hello, hello, hello.
He is a boy. He is a boy.
Jesus Christ, okay, whatever you want. Hello, son/daughter, who is clearly not here.
He is a boy. He's a boy. A beautiful, healthy boy. Today's his birthday. He is born today. Wow.
Do you remember? How does it play in? You don't decide everything.
You're scaring me.
Honey, they can't hurt anyone who doesn't exist.
After witnessing the most functional, loving family unit of all time, Nora decides to click on the other one, causing them to change into this strange, distorted figure towering over everyone else.
You should go now.
Not wishing to outstay her welcome, Nora decides to leave the house, but as she makes her way down, the tall figure follows behind. The game then completely changes shape yet again. City Folks 2D has gone 3D. Bitch. Wandering around in the woods outside of the house, Nora comes across a sign with writing that's too difficult to make out due to the video quality, and a red set of stage curtains. Within these, there are 2 floating heads, one obscured standing on a podium, and one large, red, and imposing. Nora decides to have a chat with them both.
I imagine you are one of the many. Having to admit in so many mediocre individuals is utterly depressing. Let's see what you have.
Nora has nothing.
Such a waste of time. Stay away.
Just like in the last video, a piece of dialogue matches the description. Nora then tries going past them to a cabin, but the closer she gets to it, the more distorted the game world becomes. This could be the rundown shack from video 2, seems around the same distance away, and we know what that led to. Unable to proceed, she heads in the other direction, and right as progress is about to be made, Lulu decides to ring, stating she's on her way to study with Nora and that she should get ready. Pretty convenient timing on that one. While she waits for Lulu to arrive, Nora decides to browse the web and searches using Megistone, I'm guessing a stand-in for Google in this universe. She searches up a best friends quiz, and just like City Folks 2D, this seems far more personalized than your average bullshit internet quiz. What starts out as innocuous enough questions like their favorite video game turns into, what do you think of them? They are what I would like to appear. They are my shadow, always beside me. They are the mirror of my image, and the option Nora picks, they always know what's in my mind. The last question is to pick a nickname. We're given the catchy answers of the other, the architect, the outsider, and the best. Nora goes with the best, and huzzah! Lulu and Nora are best friends! The screen cuts out, and when we return, it's to a YouTube video explaining the inner workings of
Phylum,
a group of sea and freshwater creatures who symbiotically function as a colony. The research I had to do for this video is more than my fucking degree. The video explains in its brief snippet how the creatures function in purpose and the relationship between the colony itself and the individual.
The relationship between the colony and the individual is not equal. Without the colony, the individual dies. Without an individual, the colony can survive. The presence of so many interdependent individuals in a single organism that shares similar properties is called a superorganism, or super individual.
Nora closes the video and attempts to return to her homework, not making it far before the video begins to distort and corrupt itself, cutting out entirely. We're left in darkness for 1 full minute before we're shown this. A series of pictures taken from security cameras showing the GEB operating system functioning on dozens and dozens of machines all over the nation, all interconnected and all under surveillance. Until the last image. All the computers are off, with only one remaining. This ends video 3, and with it I think we have enough to explore the first pillar of the story. So, here's my theory. GEB OS is much more than a Windows-style operating system. GEB operates as a neural network. Seemingly introduced in the 90s and the early 2000s by the company Megistone, somehow, everyone who uses the OS was connected to it in a much deeper way than just USB cables. The collective user base of GEB acted as a colony, all connected together under a digital superorganism. This is represented by the fleets of computers, all connected together for seemingly every purpose and explained by the YouTube video Nora's watching for her zoology test. Going back to the collage of nonsense from the first episode, we're shown a CAT scan of a brain and Miyazaki from a clip of him calling something an insult to life itself, and in video 2, the descriptions from the Labyrinth website describe labyrinths as mental structures, showcasing one type of labyrinth, the par excellence, as a network. Somehow, the OS manages to hook up to the brain itself, allowing seamless interaction and integration with the user's thoughts, allowing users to communicate effortlessly. The only thing is, GEB has gone out of style. Nora may be one of the only users of GEB left, stuck with it on her old PC that she can't afford to replace. And what happens when you take an old, outdated brain interfacing operating system and combine it with someone whose mind is able to perceive the memories of others and seemingly act in a way other minds can't? Maybe the games and activities you see are far more personal than originally intended, visually interpreting dreams and events linked to your own past and the pasts of others. But we'll get to that more in a bit. Every copy of GEB 64 is personalized. Video 4 opens with Nora playing a game on a Game Boy that isn't a Game Boy on Windows that isn't Windows. She generates a local LAN code, something typically used when playing local multiplayer games on a PC, and in comes Lulu. She must have come over after all. Once again placing this video very shortly after the one before it. They head out on the toon, and whilst Lulu heads into the supermarket to finish a side quest, Nora gets suckered into talking with Bob, a living potato-looking thing who is running a small stall off to the side of the bigger shop. Bob asks if Nora would like to see the future, offering to sell her future visions, and after haggling the price down from 20 grand...
Fuck off. Seriously?
20 grand? To a measly 7, Nora is given a potion, transporting her to some kind of dreamscape. The future vision is a land shrouded in blue screens and littered with the same tall figure that was stalking Nora in the last video. After floating through this broken realm, Nora comes across a large scrap of paper with what looks to be a prophecy. In a field of grass, near the end, if you'll rise your eyes, you'll meet the Great Mother in the sky. We're taken out of this vision for the future, and Nora is chastised by Lulu for doing side quests without her. She asks if Nora still wants to go on a walk, and the screen transitions to them on a hill, gazing over the stars in a nearby city. They chat for a while. Nora asks Lulu where her father is. Lulu responds with a grim realization.
Oh, he died before I was born. He didn't want to bring a child to this world. I don't think too much about it. But sometimes I wonder, what were his last thoughts as he pulled the trigger?
It seems that Nora can see more than just her parents' memories. Lulu then asks Nora her own question. What is your biggest fear?
I think it's the realization that we don't know how our universe works. Sometimes I have the impression that something terrible could just suddenly happen. If you're in a closed system, what's out there will forever be a mystery.
Lulu gets a call from her mum prompting her to leave. Nora says they should hang out again sometime, and Lulu promises to. The screen cuts to black, then fading into a rendered traditional Japanese home, sat in an awfully relaxing field. The camera slowly moves around the room while audio plays of a distressed woman on the phone. It's difficult to fully make out what's being said, but I'll try my best to transcribe it.
Too many information is overwhelming. Make it stop. I miss you every day. Texting to you feel helpless, and I don't know for how much longer I will be able to recognize the people around me. I feel so scared. Please go back. I promise I will take you back. You will always be my true friend.
And with that, video 4 is ended. So at this point, it's clear that both Nora and Lulu are struggling with underlying trauma and unresolved conflict, possibly using GEB OS as a way to escape their problems and even repress the memories they don't wish to have. But with Nora's dreams bleeding into the network, it can't be escaped for long. Let's see how things continue to get worse! Video 5 opens with Nora using the GEB media player to shuffle through photos of herself and Lulu, eventually coming across a photo with a third friend. Nora hangs on this picture for a moment and then comes across a photo of a drawing, labeling 3 coloured stick figures as Nora, Lulu, and me. Nora sends a photo of the 3 to Lulu, asking if she knows anything, as Nora can't remember even knowing this person. After finding out neither of them know, the conversation takes a change in direction.
Dude, you're acting weird lately. If you don't recall, why would I? I know I'm acting weird, but so are you. How? Why didn't you tell me when I opened up about my fears about all the things you have written on your website? What are you talking about? I read it yesterday. It's everything I've talked about. I thought it was weird the first time you said I would read it better later. Did I send you the right link?
Nora clicks the freshly sent link and is taken to a site which consists of a small game where you walk a character through a labyrinth, and that's it. Well, besides this strange image with an unknown purpose. Whatever that site was before, the one with pages upon pages of detail heavily similar to Nora's deepest fears, Lulu says she has nothing to do with it, even though the link was exactly the same as the one before it. After receiving an apology from her, Lulu starts going on about Nora's sleep schedule, saying she keeps falling asleep and has been getting frequently scared over the dumbest shit.
Do you still get those weird dreams? Yeah, they're like a continuation of what I was doing. Sometimes I struggle to even tell them apart from reality. You know, if you need anything, I'm here. But not now, I need to eat.
The screen cuts out, and when we come back in, Nora's viewing a site called Q&A from Outer Space. Specifically, a post about BSBs and the difference between them and BBs. What these two things are is pretty unclear. It seems to be some form of personality types, akin to type A and B personalities, which are actual things, but BBs and BSBs seem to only exist in the context of the series itself. Scrolling down the post, we see one user making a custom diagram attempting to visualize BBs, BSBs, and their relations to things, from the author to the public to everything. The replies to this are about as baffled as we are. As out of the blue, random and incomprehensible as this may seem at first glance, it does actually link back to something all the way in video 1, during the flashes of black and white imagery. One of those images, the series of words in Italian, when translated, actually equate to the diagram in this video. Diagram 1 describes the author, which is equal to executor, which translates to either executor or performer. This leads to musical idea with an absence of notation. This leads to oggetto sonoro, which from what I can gather from Google Translate and Wikipedia, is a concept formed by French composer Pierre Schaeffer, which indicates the perception of any sound as an object in its own right, which can be analysed independently of its cause. This goes to a recipient, then going back to the sonoro. Diagram 2 shows the BSB sandwich, with the BB and everyone above it, and the public and the author below it. There are more things laid out, but due to the poor quality, it's impossible to read. So, what the fuck does any of this mean?
What is this?
I think this is further hinting towards the media in GEBOS being personalized to the users through the neural network. Take the initial post about the BSBs, talking about them like some cool new release from a tech company, and the references to the author, recipient, and sound as an object in its own right. This is all literal. A piece of media for GEB, be it a game for example, is created by the author. It lacks cohesion, an absence of notation, as it's formed by the recipient, personalizing the experience for them by taking information from their dreams and memories, and is then returned back to the author, creating the final product. The diagram in video 5 is simply a botched recreation of the same concept laid out in Italian. I really hope that made sense. I had to rewrite that like 5 times. After seeing this image, Nora's computer lets her know that the site she's on is dodgy as shit and that she needs to get off it before the cyber police backtrace it. After closing the window, there's a notification from CityFolk 2D. Upon opening it, Nora's placed in the interior of a stone castle-like structure. There's a small room with a mirror, 2 doors, a window, and a tall, strange blue figure. The first thing Nora does is peek through the window, prompting us to see the view inside.
There is a body on the ground. You don't miss the feel of the skin.
Nora then interacts with the first door.
They can't see you.
She looks in the mirror, but other than a reflection, nothing happens. Nora enters the second door and is taken to a room floating within a black void with 3 stone podiums. The first one summoning a floating mouth who asks us to talk, and then dumps what is basically a TED talk on us.
Hey, hey, hey! How we doing? Today, I'll ask you a question. Have you ever heard of the Rashomon effect? Let's imagine an event, a traumatic event. Did you know that when we store certain type of data, our personal biases change our memories? For example, if we were a little crazy, like a psychological profile, our memory will tend to glorify our actions. When we don't have certain data, for example, events that are not objectively verifiable, how should we interpret them? Embracing ambiguity is the only possible answer. Not only are we suggestible, not only do we have to fight against ourselves, but also our perceptions are limited. Remember, you truly exist only if you acknowledge yourself.
The Rashomon effect is actually a real thing, the phenomenon of the unreliability of eyewitnesses, and it's based off of the 1950 Japanese film, Rashomon, about 4 eyewitnesses giving conflicting stories about a samurai who was murdered in the forest, which in itself is based off of the short story In a Grove, which is contained within this book I happened to buy about 3 weeks before stumbling across this series, and I thought that was neat. We then move on to Podium 2, a giant floating eyeball who asks us to see. We are shown an entirely new 3D environment featuring a new model for the player character, interacting with us as if we're separate from them.
Hey there, don't be shy, come here.
They invite us to play a game. All we have to do is find the letters. Nora doesn't do so well. We're then given a strange anecdote from the player.
I remind you that the being GEB is there for a reason. Take care in the prison, it's not all sunshine and chatter like here.
We return to the void to interact with the third and final pillar, a disembodied ear. Nora is asked if she would like to hear, and the screen fades to black. footsteps are heard, then followed by a loud as fuck gunshot that, on my first viewing, made my soul leave my body while I violently shit myself. More footsteps, which sound closer to running. The steps seem to head outside before becoming echoey.
You have collected rotten skin. Would you like to wear it now or later?
Nora seemingly tries to select later, but this causes the game to freak out before returning us to the 3 pillars. Nora leaves and makes her way to the mirror, her reflection being that of the tall creature we've seen so many glimpses of.
I hate this. Even just the sight of it's unbearable for me. I can feel every vein, every blink of my eye. It can't be like this for eternity.
She's then joined by the, until now, stationary blue figure.
What are you doing here?
Rebecca, I'm hideous. This world is hideous.
Darling, growing up is learning to love those 4 limbs we're born with.
What if I can't do it?
I know you will. And if you can't, we'll come up with something else. Everything changes. You will too.
Thank you for being here.
I'm always here for you.
The game fades to black before closing itself, and we're left with this. This ends video 5. So, we have a new character introduced and a whole lot of concepts dropped on us. Who is this Rebecca? Her dialogue reads motherly, parental. However, I believe that this is the 3rd friend, the one in purple that we've seen hints at that neither Nora nor Lulu can recall ever knowing. Nora seems to find comfort in her presence and reassurance, thanking her for being there. Whilst in the regular world her memories are repressed or modified, here in the realm of dreams and visions, she's able to reconnect with a friend who, from what we can gather, is no longer around to help her in reality. And then we have this code. This fucking code. I broke my mic. Oh no. I have spent days trying to crack this shit. I tried cross-referencing it with the grid of letters shown during the fully 3D segment. Nothing. I tried crossing that with the series of numbers that was shown in the image at the end of Lulu's Labyrinth, trying every possible combination of the two. Nothing. I realized that the blacked out letters are in the shape of a set of lips, so I thought the answer might be in the section with the floating pair of lips. There's a portion that's sped up, so I slowed it down in the editing, and it's still complete gibberish to me, so that's a no-go. I tried counting the duplications, the stutters during this bit. After that, I tried the Polybius cube, numerous ciphers, but I just couldn't crack it. This stupid cat's smug face has been staring at me for God knows how long at this point, tormenting me, goading me to solve its riddle, and I give up. I have no idea if this is something that's even meant to be solved, or if we even have the information available to solve it yet. Who knows, maybe episode 9 or 10 will have the key to put this link together, but for now, I'm at a loss. If I keep trying and failing to put my pea-sized brain to the test to solve this video is never going to get done, so instead, I'm making this an open call. Everyone watching this that is smarter than me, so everyone, I beg of you to try and solve this and send me the results, either in the comments or on social media, whatever. If we can solve this, I will be forever grateful to you. You know, unless it's like a JPEG or something. But even then, if it's like a JPEG of a cool looking dog, I'll talk about it. Let's get on to video 6 and finally put this thing to bed as it is so far. Video 6 begins once again at Nora's desktop. There's a sleepy-ass dog and the sphere head podium guy from video 3. Before we know it, we transition between several different desktops. One with a labyrinth game open, leading us to think that this is Lulu's GEB, a pink desktop from an unknown user, and a desktop shrouded in darkness. We cut to black and we return to Nora playing City Folks. She's in another area of the castle. There's 2 posters, a door, and a desk with a computer. Going over to the desk, we see it close up. There's several books surrounding a monitor and a box on the far end. When interacting with a computer, it flickers to life and displays a video of an egg hatching before shutting itself off. When interacting with the box, Nora has a look inside, only to find a strange green homunculus creature in a plaid shirt quivering in place like some freakish mix of Mr. Frog and the Eraserhead baby. The creature asks us for help, wanting Nora to bring him back. You see, Frog Guy here has lost his brother who goes by Gua, a shy rabbit all alone. The creature then names Nora, begging her to find him. We're given an objective which reveals the name of the creature to be Donald, and Nora heads out through the door on a quest to find Gua. The game transitions to a 2D side-scroller perspective in a brand new area, one that looks far more inviting than the castle walls from earlier. Nora walks for a bit before being joined by this hellish fishbone skeleton of seaman abomination who is just That's just a really cool design. Just look at this, this goes hard as hell. Nora asks the fish, who is named Alba, about finding Gua. Alba responds by saying it's a bad business, as a lot of rabbits have been disappearing lately and that they're not the only ones, revealing that 2 chimpanzees have also gone missing.
We found one 6 months later tied to a radiator, not far from the house you see over there.
The camera pans over to this house, which in my mind strikes a resemblance to that damn dilapidated shack from video 2, although I may be trying to tie ends that just don't go together. After further conversation between Nora, Alba and a giant black and white goat head called Clever Hans, which doesn't really go anywhere, Nora decides it's up to her to solve this mystery and heads inside the house. The house is quiet, old and decrepit. The sound that does play is a whirring, high-pitched monotone. There's a chain on the floor in front of a large wall radiator and 2 open doors.
My god, what have you created?
Nora explores, showing us more of the rotten interior. The next room features several photos stuck to a wall.
How did you expect I would survive this? The guilt is gnawing away at my skin. I would have preferred not to experience what you did.
We're shown the end of the house and we find Gua, trapped in the center of a table, only their head is visible. It's not until they speak that we can see that the head is not removed from the body. They have one thing to say to us. We hear a rusted door open. Someone knows we're here and they're making their way over to us. Nora backs up and out of the house in a panic, blindly flashing through the rooms we've already seen as quick as she can before we're outside again. After making it out into the now moonlit street, Nora heads back to the castle, but the area that loads in is a strange, abstract figment seemingly floating in the sky. There's a staircase leading down into nothing, and upon entering it, the game fades into a strange labyrinth of dirty walls and checkerboard floors. As Nora heads through it, the areas become reminiscent of the brief blips of different desktops we saw at the beginning of the video, implying that the neural connection in this game allows players to come across the same places. It's all very dreamlike, and I love the vibe of it. One of the rooms, seemingly deep into the labyrinth, looks remarkably like the house from the beginning of all of this, even featuring Nick from video 3 standing in a doorway. At the deepest level, seemingly a basement, Nora walks up to a giant PC, interacting with it and triggering a new game within the game. Reassemble the character. In this very simple game, the player is tasked with recreating faces from their memory. The first level is our dog, which Nora recreates with ease because who could ever forget this little guy? The second is to recreate her father, which again she manages, although with a little more effort. Finally, she's asked to recreate her best friend, and Nora can't do it. Everything closes, and 20 seconds later, we're shown a vignette of Nora and Lulu sitting by a swing set at night having a conversation. Nora talks about her fears, how being 20 isn't what she thought it would be, that she feels as if she's not living the right way.
I still live with my parents, college isn't what I imagined, plus everyone mistakes me for a 14-year-old.
At first, Lulu tries comforting her, waving away her troubles as not too bad, but the conversation soon takes a turn.
Where do you imagine yourself being now?
I thought I would get magically smarter and taller.
Was that so important? This isn't about knowledge at all, am I right? This is always about you. You don't really care about knowing everything. You want to believe that you're better than others. Thinking it would have given you intrinsic value, a deeper connection with your surroundings. Failure is the best thing that could have happened to you in your stupid selfishness. What is it? Does your private God no longer speak to you?
Why are you doing this to me?
Because I know you think so too.
This ends video 6.
Time for me to take a break.
For today's snack time, I'm going to be consuming something that my brother brought me back from America, SpongeBob SquarePants Kraft macaroni and cheese. Now, I'm not an American, so my body probably won't be able to withstand the pure chemical warfare I'm about to put it through, but who knows, maybe I'll survive. After getting my spoon and fork license reapproved by the British government and preparing the meal to the specifications on the box, it's time to sit down and eat it. I'm also going to be washing it down with a nice peach iced tea beverage, which I purchased from, shop.
Yeah, something like that, where it's
Overall, it was pretty good, but it's got nothing on the British delicacy Abercrombie Scrimbies, am I right, fellas? So, with everything we're seeing now being up to date as of the writing of this, I think we can try putting together my own theory of Nora's life and everyone's predicament. So from what we can gather, there are three main characters to this series. Nora, our point of view, Lulu, professed best friend, and a third, as of now, unnamed friend. My theory is that originally it was just Nora and the third friend, who I'll refer to as Rebecca for now. They were both the original best friend duo twinsies growing up together and all that jazz. Then, at some point, something happened to Rebecca. We don't know what for certain, but from what we glimpsed in video 6, if these two things are linked, it wasn't pretty. Now, for the amount of involvement Nora had in Rebecca's fate, it's uncertain. The game hints at an amount of direct causation, but as the floating lips told us, our biases can affect our memories of traumatic events, and with Nora's tendency to flow between dreams and reality making the narrative we're shown not entirely reliable, it's unsure what truly happened and what Nora's involvement was. What we do know is whatever happened, it's racked Nora with guilt, so the game spitting that back at her as a form of blame is not all too surprising. So, with Rebecca out of the picture, Nora continues growing up alone in a highly dysfunctional family. A family that resents her for something out of her control. You see, I think Nora is trans. Disclaimer, this part of the theory is going to get a bit murky. I want to put this out there now, plain as day, that this is my theory and not the word of the creators. It is simply how I personally interpreted it, and I don't know, I might be a little bit biased. You know, the last thing I want to come across as is one of those video essay people that just shoves in some completely unrelated narrative into a video, so I will try to substantiate what I'm saying. But from what I saw in the series, the consistent mentions of Nora's warped view of herself, the antagonizing words from what is implied to be her family, constantly switching genders when referring to her, the phrases throughout, like Eva in video 2 saying in a few months we're all going to get used to somebody new, I viewed it all as pointing towards Nora being a trans character. I think that the person curled up on the floor in video 3 is supposed to be Nora, due to the reflection of herself in video 5 being the same tall creature that this turns into and that stalks her throughout the series. She's closed off to everyone else, ashamed of herself and her image. This is my timeline for events. After the passing of her best friend Rebecca, Nora heads to college to make something of herself, connecting or maybe reconnecting with her friend Lulu, who seems to study at the same place herself. Eventually, it becomes too much for Nora. The stress of student life in combination with her continuing dreams and visions causing her derealization, and after a while, she's sent back home, back to her dysfunctional and maybe even abusive home life. And I don't think she can exactly leave. Due to her implied mental health struggles, it's apparent that she may be on some form of watch. Back in video 2, when interacting with Paul, she says, "You managed to escape, didn't you? I told you the world was a dangerous place." So, unable to leave, Nora spends all her time at home, where she recluses even more, constantly downstairs in the basement hooked up to the neural network, making herself worse and her visions more intertwined with reality until she struggles with telling the two apart. Tormented by her past and the past of her only remaining friend, Lulu. We know from Nora's dreams that Lulu has a troubled past of her own, and for some reason, she's always there whenever things start to unravel. Whenever Nora is about to make progress, Lulu shows up. And while she claims to be Nora's friend and the two clearly have history, she consistently puts Nora down, exposing her to her deepest fears and fucking with her head, reinforcing the repression of these difficult memories. Going back to the best friends quiz, I think it's no coincidence that Nora uses the answer, "She always knows what's in my head." Either Lulu is just a really shit friend, or she has a reason to maintain Nora's repression of events and continual denial, feeding into the narratives that reject anything strange going on, because if this building is the same as the one in video 2, like I hinted at, Lulu may be more involved with Nora's past than initially thought. And that is GEB. A series that sprung out of nowhere, completely took me by surprise and blew me away with its aesthetics and fragmented storytelling. It weirdly reminds me of like a tech dystopian version of Last Night in Soho, perfectly capturing the inner anxieties of a 2000s child who spent far too much time on the early internet. It's not perfect by any means, the sometimes slightly dodgy English and very
unhuman-like computer mouse is a bit immersion-breaking, but with the framing device of dreams weaving into reality, it's easy to incorporate those things as intentional effects, even if they're almost definitely not. There's a few odds and ends. There's things that we just don't have enough info on to come to a concrete answer for, like the Bandage Man's mentions of the noise, a good chunk of the flashes in video 1, and what the fuck these things are, but that's the fun of all this. The series is still ongoing, and who knows how many videos we'll get, but until then, embracing ambiguity is the only possible answer. So go on down to Geb's channel and check out any new videos that might be coming down the pipeline. It's good stuff, and it's gone unrecognized for way too long.
Stay away. I think one more take. I think.
Oh, yeah.
What the
Look at
hell?
me. I can do a funny little character. I'm a little guy.
What the
I'm
fuck?
a fella. I'm the dude.
Shut up!